Okay, here's something to think about. What if I told you that in the world of building connections, the end of a conversation is actually maybe more important than the beginning? Welcome to Daily English Practice. Listen and speak. Today, we're doing a deep dive into using English specifically for networking, and maybe forget the really stiff, formal textbook stuff for a minute.
Yeah, definitely.
This is about real interactions,
Hmm.
connecting with people, sharing ideas, and hopefully unlocking some opportunities.
Hmm.
All through, well, effective communication in English. We've gathered a bunch of sources, articles, guides, even dialogue examples that give us practical tools,
And
phrases.
some surprisingly smart strategies, actually.
Exactly. Strategies to help you meet people, actually talk to them, and maybe most importantly, build on that first contact.
That's right. We've pulled insights from places like Your English Pal, Everyday Conversations, HubSpot, Very Well Mind. Quite a mix.
It's about getting past just saying hello.
Right. Totally. It's understanding the whole cycle of interaction, including the bits people often, well, kind of forget about.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning, though. What is networking, fundamentally? One source we looked at, Your English Pal, puts it really nicely, I thought.
Ah, yeah, I know the one you mean.
It says networking is simply about connecting
Hmm.
people with ideas and people with opportunities.
Simple but powerful. And in today's world, so many of those connections, those ideas, those opportunities,
Mhm.
they cross borders.
Which is where English comes in.
Exactly. It becomes that common language. It's not just, a nice to have skill anymore.
Mhm.
It's pretty crucial for opening those global doors.
And it's not just for fancy business meetings.
Not at all. That's the fascinating part. It's about making connections everywhere, really.
Yeah.
Everyday situations, too.
Okay, absolutely. And that whole process, connecting those dots, it has to start somewhere. You have to, well,
Take the plunge. Start the conversation.
which can be, let's be honest, a bit intimidating sometimes.
Oh, definitely. That's where this idea of icebreakers comes in handy. Your English pal talks about these as like strategies specifically designed to relieve that initial tension.
Makes sense. You break the ice.
Yeah, when you're trying to talk to someone new.
Right. And once the ice is broken, you've got those first few seconds. Greetings. Now, most people know hello, hi, good morning. We don't need to dwell on those.
True. But there's a key little nuance our everyday conversation source pointed out.
Ah, yes, tell us.
The difference between good evening and good night, okay, good evening, is for greeting someone when you arrive or meet them in the evening.
Right.
Good night is only for saying goodbye when you're leaving for the night or going to bed.
That's a really important one not to mix up. You don't want to say good night when you walk into a party.
Definitely not. And while we're in those first moments, especially in more formal settings, like in the U.S., for example,
Handshake.
the handshake, exactly, it's pretty customary, usually firm, brief, just long enough to say nice to meet you.
Speaking of which, nice to meet you. That's the standard reply, isn't it? After you're introduced.
Yep. Simple, polite, essential. And that whole act, starting the chat, your English pal uses the phrase striking up a conversation.
Striking up a conversation. I like that. Okay, so you've struck up the conversation, you've done the greetings. How do you keep it going past that first minute?
Ah, now it gets more interesting. It's not just about asking basic questions. One really key skill that came up is active listening.
Right, showing you're actually engaged.
Exactly. It's not just hearing the words. It's signaling that you're processing it, that you're interested. A Coursera course actually dives deep into this, but the core idea for networking is that engagement piece.
And how do you show that engagement with your language?
Well, asking follow-up clubs is huge. Not just the first, how's it going,
Hmm.
but really reacting to what they say.
So if they mention, say, a recent trip.
Instead of just nodding, you ask, oh, where did you go? Or, wow, how was it? Show curiosity. Sources like HubSpot and Everyday Conversations really stress personalizing it. Ask
Yeah.
about hobbies, interests.
Or maybe something you saw they posted online, if that's appropriate.
Yeah, if you have that connection. It makes it feel less like an interrogation and more, well, human. A genuine exchange.
And part of listening is reacting emotionally too, right?
Absolutely. The Everyday Conversations notes gave some simple but good examples, like saying, oh no, if someone shares bad news.
Or, I know how you feel.
Showing empathy. Exactly. It builds rapport.
Okay, but what if you don't understand something? Happens all the time, right? Maybe the connection's bad on a call or they use an idiom you haven't heard. You don't want to just smile and nod.
No, definitely not. Everyday Conversations is great for this. It gives direct phrases like, what did you say? Or a bit more polite, can you repeat that, please?
Okay.
In a more formal situation, you might use, I'm sorry, or I beg your pardon, but always with that rising intonation, like a question.
Right, to show you're asking for clarification, not accusing them.
Precisely. They even mention specific phone issues, like if the line is cutting out or you're losing the other person. Useful stuff.
It really helps to have those phrases ready. Okay, so listening, clarifying,
Yeah.
what else keeps it flowing naturally?
Finding common ground. That's a big one. HubSpot suggests looking for things like shared hobbies. Maybe you're from the same city, went to the same college.
Or you're both at the same conference, experiencing the same thing.
Exactly. Those everyday conversations examples show people bonding over pets or vacations or shared interests. It just makes talking so much easier when you find something you both connect on.
Yeah, it takes the pressure off a bit.
And even tiny things help make it sound natural, like those little filler words or pauses people use.
You mean like saying, well, or when you need a second to think.
Exactly those. Or using informal ways to agree, like, sounds great, or sure thing, or just, yeah, sure. Sprinkling those in makes the whole conversation feel less stiff, more authentic.
Okay, this is great. So we've kept it going, listened actively, found common ground. It's been a good chat. Now let's circle back to that hook from the start.
Yes, the ending.
Ending the conversation gracefully. This is where it gets crucial, apparently.
It really might seem counterintuitive, but like Very Well Mind points out, how you end things leaves a really powerful, lasting impression. You can have a fantastic conversation.
And ruin it with a clumsy exit.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
An awkward ending can undo all the good rapport you built.
Okay, so timing matters here, I guess.
Surprisingly, yes. One source talks about aiming for the neutral zone.
The neutral zone, what's that?
It's that sweet spot after the conversation has peaked, it's been interesting, but before it hits that awkward silence where you've both run out of steam.
Ah, okay. You want to leave on a high note, or at least not a low one.
Exactly. And you need to pay attention to signals the other person might be ready to finish up.
Like what? What should you look for?
Well, verbally, they might start repeating points or their answers get really short, maybe just one word. And then there's body language. Are they looking away a lot? Checking their phone or watch? Shifting their weight or even starting to turn their body slightly away?
Those are subtle cues, but important.
Definitely signals they might be ready to wrap things up.
So if you pick up on those cues, or you just feel it's time, how do you actually do it smoothly? Especially if ending conversations feels awkward for you.
Well, Very Well Mind has this really neat little technique. They call it the SAT method.
SAT. Okay, tell me more.
It stands for sandwich and thank.
Sandwich and thank. Okay, I like the sound of that.
Yeah. So you basically sandwich your exit line between a compliment and a thank you.
Oh, clever.
You start with a quick, genuine compliment about the chat. Something like, I really enjoyed talking about X with you. But, and this is important, make sure the compliment doesn't accidentally invite more conversation.
Good point. Keep it brief.
Right. Then you clearly state your exit line. You need to go. And finally, you finish with a thank you.
Okay, can you give some examples, like casual versus professional?
Sure. Casually, maybe. Well, it's been great catching up, but I really must get going now. Or if you were visiting, I had such a lovely time. Thanks so much for having me over. Simple, polite, direct.
Got it. And for, say, a networking event?
You might say something like, it was a real pleasure talking to you. Feel free to drop me a line if you need anything. Or maybe, thanks for your time today. I really appreciate the chat.
What if you need to signal you want to meet other people at the event?
You could say, it's been great chatting with you. Here's my card if you want to connect. Or perhaps, it was a pleasure meeting you. I should probably mingle a bit more now, though. It's clear, but still polite.
You can also use time as a reason, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Things like, oops, look at the time. I have another meeting coming up, so I need to run. Or, I really should get back to these tasks. Maybe we can catch up properly at lunch.
Makes sense. And just like starting, nonverbals help here, too.
Absolutely. Very well. Mind mentions things like standing up, if you were sitting, offering that handshake as you say your goodbyes.
Or even just kind of angling yourself towards the door or the next person.
Exactly. It reinforces the verbal message. They even briefly touch on ending difficult conversations, which is a whole skill in itself.
Oh, wow. What's the advice there?
The main thing is to state your need calmly and clearly. Phrases like, I need to step away for a moment, or I don't think I can continue this conversation right now. It's about being assertive, but calm.
Okay, that's really useful. So ending well is critical. And it leads directly into the next vital step in networking, doesn't it?
It really does. Following up, HubSpot hammers this home.
Hmm.
This is where you solidify that connection you just made. Otherwise, it might just fade away.
And email seems to be the go-to for this.
Very common, yes. And that means the subject line is your first hurdle. It absolutely needs to grab their attention in a busy inbox.
Right. Get them to actually open it. HubSpot had some good ideas here, didn't they?
They did. Really smart ones. Depending on your goal, of course. If you discussed a specific tool at an event, maybe. Have you tried using tool for goal? It's super relevant.
Or if you just want a quick chat.
Something friendly like free for coffee on me. Works well. Clear and inviting.
And what was that one for if they haven't replied to your first follow-up?
Ah, my favorite. The subject line, did I get lost?
Huh. I love that. It's much better than just following up.
Exactly. It's light, human, non-accusatory. It often gets a response.
Okay, so the subject line gets it open. What needs to be inside the email? HubSpot had a breakdown, right?
Yep, 4 key things, basically. First, personalization. Absolutely crucial. Remind them where and when you met and mention something specific you talked about.
Shows you were actually listening.
Precisely. And checking their LinkedIn beforehand can jog your memory or give you more common ground to mention.
Okay, personalization. What's second?
A brief recap, especially if there's a meeting with action items. Just quick summary of the main points or decisions. Keeps everyone on the same page. State your purpose clearly. Why this email right now? Are you asking for another meeting? Sharing that resource you promised? Maybe asking for an introduction. Be upfront.
Makes sense. Don't make them guess. And fourth,
If you want them to do something, include a clear call to action. Make it super easy for them. Would you be free for a quick call next Tuesday? Or would you be willing to introduce me to contact name?
be specific.
Yes. Oh, and a little pro tip they added. If someone else set up the original meeting, mention their name. Adds context and credibility quickly.
Smart. And you mentioned asking for an introduction. HubSpot had advice on that too.
Yeah, a great tip. Offer to draft the introduction email for them. That way, all they have to do is tweak it maybe and hit forward. Removes a huge barrier.
Oh, that's brilliant. Makes it so much easier to say yes.
Exactly. And this whole follow-up process, getting back in touch after meeting someone, that connects back to the vocabulary from your English pal.
Right. They talked about reaching out.
Reaching out, or the more informal version, hitting someone up. That's what this is.
We've really covered the whole journey, haven't we? From nervously saying hello to strategically following up. Maybe we should quickly recap some of that key networking vocabulary we mentioned.
Good idea. From your English pal, we had mingle, that's moving around, talking to different people at an event.
We had strike up a conversation, just starting that chat.
Reach out, or hit someone up for contacting someone later.
Icebreakers, those little things to ease the start of a conversation.
And the broader idea of social capital, basically, the value you get from your network, from these connections.
Understanding these words and actually practicing the techniques. Starting, listening, asking for clarification, finding common ground.
And especially ending gracefully and following up effectively.
It really can change how you experience networking in English, can't it?
Absolutely. These are the tools, the building blocks for making those genuine connections, finding those ideas, those opportunities we talked about right at the start.
It really drives home that every single part of the interaction counts.
It does. No stage is unimportant.
So, as you, our listener, think about your own English journey and building your network, here's maybe a final thought to chew on from this deep dive. Knowing how crucial that graceful exit and the thoughtful follow-up really are, could focusing specifically on mastering those skills in English be the very thing that unlocks your next significant opportunity, maybe one you haven't even considered yet?
It's definitely something to think about, how refining those closing moments and the follow-through could potentially open doors you didn't expect.
Keep practicing these skills, keep reaching out, and you'll definitely build confidence and effectiveness in your English networking. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive.